In this session, we're going to explore how to improve productivity, increase educator wellness, and self-care. For our objectives in this session, we're going to identify 6 different types of self-care. The main goal is for you to walk away with at least one thing that you can do within your scope to take care of yourself. Then we're going to talk about the causes, effects, and possible solutions to educator burnout. And last but not least, we're going to discuss practical, budget-friendly ideas for self-care for students and staff. This works in the classroom, at home, or wherever you are. So this is our agenda. I'm going to go into a brief introduction of who I am. Then we're going to talk about preventing burnout. Then we will transition into the different types of self-care. And then we're going to mix in some practical activities that you can do in the classroom to improve the overall wellness of your students and for yourself. Let me introduce myself. My name is Burnett, and I am a middle school counselor living in Houston, Texas. This is my 12th year in education. I started off as a middle school Spanish teacher, and I've been an elementary and middle school counselor. I've also been an assistant principal, and I've worked in the mental health field as a family intervention specialist. I also share resources, videos, and tips for educators and school counselors on my Instagram and my YouTube under the same name, which is Counseling with Mr. B. Before we get started, I'd like to begin with a quote. An empty lantern provides no light. Self-care is the fuel that allows your light to shine brightly. This quote really resonated with me, and you're going to see why throughout this presentation. Hopefully, you'll feel the same way. Over the last couple of years, there's been some challenges and barriers that have drastically changed education for students, staff, and families. I like to call it the Zoom. And I'm not talking about the platform Zoom where you are able to webcam and teach. I mean that everything just felt like it was so fast and overwhelming. But there is hope, and we're going to talk about it in this presentation. I wholeheartedly believe in prevention, so now we're going to talk about the causes of burnout. So these are some of the causes of burnout. This is not an exhaustive list. If you've ever worked in a toxic work environment, that can drastically affect your mental and your physical health and cause you to be stressed and have anxious thoughts. Unclear expectations is another cause of burnout. If you've ever worked in a place where the mission, the vision, and the goals weren't clearly outlined, it can cause confusion and stress. And as we move into the next point, recognition is super important, especially over the things that have been happening over the last couple of years. There have been many educators who have gone above and beyond to meet the needs of their students and their staff and their communities. And if we're not being recognized for our efforts, even a simple thank you, that can cause burnout. Being micromanaged, a lack of trust from administration is definitely a cause of burnout. And then unmanageable work or caseloads. If you work in secondary schools or you're a school counselor, you might know something about unmanageable caseloads because we're responsible for multiple students. So what are the effects of burnout? So if we don't find ways to reduce burnout and take care of ourselves, it can affect our mental and our physical well-being. So let's talk about some of the effects. Burnout can cause you to fall behind on your work or miss deadlines. This is when you feel like the workload is constantly piling up and you're not able to keep up. And if people who do experience burnout actually keep up with their deadlines, at times they may deliver subpar work just simply to get it over with. Stress and burnout can cause you to damage personal relationships. If you give so much at work, at times if you go home, you're not able to give anything back to your family, your friends, or your pets. Burnout can also cause people to neglect their physical health because they don't have the energy to go home and cook a meal, so they'll stop at a fast food restaurant, which could become costly and affect finances. People who are stressed and experiencing burnout also neglect their physical health by not going to the gym regularly because they don't have the time and the energy to do so. So we've talked about the causes and effect of burnout. Let's talk about some solutions. Let's go on a positive note. Here are 5 ways that you can reduce burnout. I hope you have your pen and paper and get ready to take some notes. These are some tips that will help you reduce stress and anxiety so you can pour back into your cup and pour into others. Number 1, set boundaries. You have to be able to set professional boundaries for yourself in order to take care of yourself. So as far as email, I don't check email outside of work. There's a funny story and reason why I don't do this. My first year as a school counselor, I checked my email at 9 p.m. at night, and I had an email from an angry parent. It made me upset because I was not able to address the situation in the moment, and I was not able to fall asleep. So I make sure that I don't check email outside of work. That goes with phone calls too. Another way to establish boundaries is to limit your phone calls about work outside of work. And one of the most important things that you can do for yourself is take your PTO. I know it may seem frowned upon. As long as you don't take all the days all at once, it's important for you to take mental health days. And so I always start with this meme in the bottom right hand corner. PTO stands for prepare the others because I won't be there. In all seriousness, you have to use your mental health days. If you know that you're not at your best, you're not going to be able to give your students your best. So take your PTO whenever you feel like you need to. Tip number 2, create a system of organization for yourself. That can reduce stress. As you can see in the picture, I use an ARC planner that I purchased from Staples. There's a special hole punch where you can actually put inserts in it. So I put my planning documents inside of this and I'm able to change them out. I decorate it with stickers so it can be personal for me. I use this planner and I take it with me anytime I'm in a meeting. I take notes in it. Anytime a student comes to see me, it helps me to stay organized. I have hall duty, so I help our students transition, and I set alarms to make sure that I keep up with that time. And the last organization system that I utilize, I have a digital calendar. I color code all of my major meetings on Outlook so that it stands out and is visually appealing. You have to find an organization system that works for you. Tip number 3, prioritize tasks. Every morning I get to work about 15 minutes early and I sit down and I make a to-do list. When I'm making my to-do list, I write down the major things that I have to get done for that day. I also make note of the students that I need to check in for that day. Then I go back and I put like a star or a check on the major things that I really need to get done. And I prioritize my tasks. It brings you a sense of joy when I can check off something off my list. So that's why I love making to-do lists. Tip number 4, practice the KonMari method. Marie Kondo is an organization consultant that helps people organize their closets, their homes, and their workspace. I took some of the tips that she mentioned in her book and I applied it to the life of an educator. Organizing your workspace. Every evening before I leave work, I always make sure that my desk is cleaned off so that when I come back in the next morning, it's clean and organized. It brings me a sense of joy when I see my desk neatly organized the next day. Marie Kondo also encourages us to do what brings us joy. For me, I love doing bulletin boards and doing anything creative at my school. And so if I know I have a lot of things to do, sometimes I'll take a break and do something creative, like go make a bulletin board, and it brings me joy. Another thing that I do is I clean up my email list. I delete emails that I don't need anymore. I made folders in my Outlook and I drop important emails in there so I can easily access them later on. This is another way to organize my digital and my physical resources. So making sure that your workspace is clean, organized, and that you are efficient. That's another way to have self-care. And last but not least, practicing self-care. So we're going to talk about the 6 different types of self-care, and I'm going to give you some examples that you can walk away with. But before we do that, I would love to share this quote that I found from Michelle Obama. Whether an illness affects your heart, your leg, or your brain, it's still an illness, and there should be no distinction. So what I take from that is that we have to make sure we take care of our mental and our physical well-being because either one of those can drastically affect our health. So here are 6 different types of self-care, and I'm going to give you some examples that you can use throughout your daily life. Most of these examples can be done between 5 and 10 minutes, and they're free, a lot of them. Number 1, emotional self-care. These are the activities that help you connect, process, and reflect on your emotions. These are the coping skills that I teach my students. These are coping skills like deep breathing, acts of gratitude, positive affirmation, journaling, doing something creative like art, music, drawing, or painting. And that also includes listening to your favorite podcast or playlist on your commute to and from work. There's this wonderful free tool that I would like to introduce you to. If you go to actionforhappiness.org, you can download a free calendar with different activities for every day of that month. For example, Self-Care September is right around the corner. And so every single day you can share these exercises with your students or you can do them personally, but you can just pick whatever day of the week it is and do the simple exercise or the simple activity that's listed. For example, if you look at Friday, September 2nd, it simply states, notice the things that you do well, however small. So again, that's focusing on those small wins. I love Saturday, September 3rd. Let go of self-criticism and speak kindly and positively to yourself. These small things have a huge impact on the way we treat ourselves, the way we see ourselves, and the way we treat other people too. So again, this is free. If you go to actionforhappiness.org, you can download your calendar every single month. You can share these activities with your students in your class, or you can do them at home with your family or even yourself. I would love to share some benefits of mindfulness and self-care because it has a lot of benefits that can benefit you in your daily life. Doing mindfulness and deep breathing exercises reduces stress and anxiety. This works in the school setting, at home. If you're ever stuck in traffic, you can use these exercises anywhere. These exercises also increase your feelings of being calm and relaxation. They reduce chronic pain. So if you ever have any areas in your body that are aching, mindfulness and relaxation helps relieve that. Mindfulness also improves your self-confidence and your self-esteem because when you take care of yourself, you feel better about yourself. And then it increases your energy level. So if you're ever in a classroom where your students are starting to become antsy or drifting off during the lesson, do some deep breathing mindfulness exercises because it gives your brain and your body a boost. Mindfulness also helps you to feel more compassion for other people and yourself, which means you'll be a better person in the community. If you're in an elementary or a middle school, you can go to YouTube and find some really great deep breathing exercises on MindYeti. The videos on MindYeti are for elementary and maybe middle school, but you can find some deep breathing exercise for high school students too. So this is an example that I pulled for an elementary school setting. It's a really simple deep breathing exercise. This video is about 2 minutes long. You can do this in the morning to set the tone for the day, or you can share these activities with students after lunch or recess to kind of reset their focus and get them back engaged and ready for learning. So one activity that you can do in the classroom with your students is you can create a stress-free playlist and share it with your students. I always send a Google form and allow my students to pick a song that brings them joy. And then I combine that list and make a huge playlist and share those songs with students during independent work time. And if they are comfortable with this, you can shout out the students who recommended the song that's playing at the time. This is a great way to build a sense of community. Positive affirmations are a simple yet powerful activity that you can share with your students in the classroom. You can go to any search engine, type in positive affirmation examples, make a list of them, and either share them in a presentation like you see here, or you can write them out on the board, or you can share them with your students. So these are just a couple that I picked. There was one website where it had over 100 positive affirmations, and these are just some that I chose to pick. Number 1, I can do great things. 2, I am in this world to make a difference. 3, I can find positives in any given situation. Number 4, I am growing my knowledge and learning. Imagine the impact if you share these simple positive affirmations with your students. It will increase their growth mindset, their sense of grit, and their resilience. And for you too. Also, it's important to know that making positive statements to yourself not only helps you to build confidence, helps you to care about other people too. Sharing positive affirmations also helps your performance at school, in sports, and clubs because it helps you to feel better about yourself and helps you to rebound if you ever make a mistake. And the last thing it does is it improves your mental skills and sharpens your focus. So again, you can share these positive affirmations with your students very easily. It's a simple activity and it doesn't cost anything. Tip number 2, mental self-care. Activities that stimulate your mind and your intellect. This involves reading for pleasure, solving puzzles, playing games like chess, and going to museums. Houston has some amazing museums, and I love going and taking pictures and reading all of the information. Hobbies and do-it-yourself projects are really great for mental self-care. You can find out how to do just about anything by watching TikTok videos or YouTube and simply doing your own projects. This is an excellent form of self-care, and it leads into learning new skills. And if you ever need to take a break from social media, that's another form of mental self-care. Number three, practical self-care. This is the one that I believe strongly applies to educators. This is when you complete tasks that establish order and eliminate future stress. Creating budgets. This is something you can do at home to help with your financial stress. I shared the importance of making to-do lists in an earlier tip. Another example is to take professional development classes outside of work related. For example, there's this photography course that I signed up for, and I'm learning how to take better pictures. I love it because it doesn't have anything to do with school, and it's a way to bring me relief and joy. And then organizing your home, closet, and workspace. These are examples of practical self-care that establish order in your life. Self-care tip number four, social self-care. These are the activities that you can do to nurture and deepen your connections and relationships with people around you. Some examples of social self-care is going to brunch with your friends, going on dates, calling family regularly. For me, my family lives in Memphis, but we have a group chat where we'll send each other encouraging messages, funny TikToks and jokes and things like that. It's a great way to stay connected. Another form of social self-care for introverts is going on dates with yourself, like going to a coffee shop, going to the movies, or going out to eat on your own. You don't have to do these with people. It's still a form of self-care. And number five, physical self-care. These are activities that improve your health and well-being. For example, going to the gym, exercising, taking a walk, biking, hiking, making sure that you get enough sleep every night, drinking water and staying hydrated, meal prepping. Taking your lunch and meal prepping every week is a way to lower costs. Getting a manicure, a pedicure, or even a massage. These are things that you can do to take care of your physical well-being. And for physical activities that you can do in the classroom, check out GoNoodle.com. They've got some elementary and middle school activities that you can do for movement. They've got some activities that you can do with your students like dancing and movement and brain breaks. You can probably still do this with high school too. They're big kids. Another thing you can do is search on YouTube. There's a game called Would You Rather. It offers students two choices. You can either choose Spider-Man or Iron Man, and each choice is associated with a different type of movement. Like for example, if I chose Spider-Man, then I can get up and do some jumping jacks, or if I chose Iron Man, then you do planks. It's a great way to make sure that your students have fun, they're engaged, and it takes their mind off of the academics for just a few minutes. And last but not least is spiritual self-care. These are activities that nurture your spirit and allow you to connect, and they don't necessarily have to be related to religion. For example, mindfulness meditation, deep breathing exercises, praying, going to places of worship, being in nature, so going out for a walk, going for a hike, going to the beach. And my personal favorite is self-reflection. And at the end of every day, I try to focus on a small win, something that went well for that day. You have to give yourself grace and be able to focus on the positive, even if it's a small thing. So there's a mindfulness exercise that I would love to share with you. It's one of my favorites. It's called Alien Mindful Eating. So what you do, you get a small piece of candy or gum or mints or chocolate, and you pretend like you're an alien and you've never seen that candy before. So you use your five senses to navigate this exercise. And again, this is something you could easily share with your class. So you have them pick up the piece of candy and look at it, have them observe it and call out what they see. For example, if it's chocolate, have them describe it. Describe the color, describe the texture, what it looks like. Is it bumpy? Does it have ridges? That sort of thing. Then you have your students put it up to their ear and pretend like they can hear it. Have them smell it and see what it smells like and see if it reminds them of anything. Our sense of smell is very powerful and it can bring back memories. For example, if I'm smelling turkey, it reminds me of Thanksgiving, it reminds me of family gatherings and fun. So sometimes those memories can be triggered by our sense of smell. Then last but not least, you have the students put that chocolate or that candy on their tongue, but encourage them not to chew it right away. If it's something that can dissolve like a mint, have them describe what that feeling is like when it's on their tongue, and then they can bite it. This is a really good activity that you can use for test anxiety, and it really makes our students take the time to focus on something more positive as opposed to the negative things that are going on or those feelings that they're experiencing. I really love this activity. Here's a life wheel activity. This is a very simple assessment that you can do to show where your priorities are. It's a survey that helps you identify what areas of your life that you're placing the most focus on. So, for example, if you look at this wheel right here, it gives you a number, and then you can see, well, maybe I need to put a little bit more focus on one area and take a little bit away from another area. It's really simple. And if you would like to complete it, it only takes a couple minutes. And here's the QR code. You can just simply scan it and take it. I think it literally takes about 5 minutes to take this assessment. It helps you determine what areas are the most important to you and where you can shift your focus. In this session, we talked about the causes and effects of burnout, but we talked about the solutions too. There are simple things that you can do that are low cost and low time consuming that you can do to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, and activities that you can easily share with your students in the classroom. If you would like to stay connected, I have a Facebook group where I share resources. It's called the Learning Lab. You can search it on Facebook. Also, you can follow me on Instagram at Counseling with Mr. B, or on my YouTube channel at Counseling with Mr. B. On my Instagram and YouTube, I share resources and videos to help educators make their life easier, and I talk about mental health tips. So if you liked any of the information that you heard in this presentation, be sure to stay connected. Have a great rest of your day.